Allen, Lumix Ambassador, and I'm going to do a video for you about doing portraiture. So many of us are stuck at home right now with the COVID-19, and this is a great opportunity to build your skills and get some great images of your family, loved ones, maybe even yourself. And I want to give you some confidence about finding light. That's probably my number one focus. Of course, I'm going to cover the cameras, the lenses, the focus, the white balance, all those important factors. But really, the most important thing with portraits is finding great light. So most of us know that early in the morning, late in the evening, that's the best time for light. But what about in the middle of the day? And what about indoors, like window light? I want to show you how to take marginal light that's just okay and make it fantastic, and take troublesome light and fix the problems. So we're going to shoot inside my house and in my yard, in my mom's house, at a neighbor's house. We're going to do all kinds of stuff in small places and big places, and with backlight and front light, and basically natural light, a little bit of reflector use. So I want to give you confidence about how to do portraiture, and just let's have fun with this. This is a great opportunity, and there's a lot of beautiful light out there if you know what to look for. Now, I'm on this learning journey myself. Normally, my husband is my video guy and he's my assistant, but he's got a job. This is fortunate. He has a job, which is awesome. Unfortunately, it's 500 miles away. So I am learning to do all of this by myself. And so I'm the video person and the grip and the talent and sometimes even the model, like right now. So we're all on this learning journey together. If it's not absolutely perfect, give me a little bit of grace, and give yourself grace too. Let's just get creative. Okay, so we're going to do a bunch of different segments today on this video. I want to show you how to shoot indoors with window lights, and then how to make that window light even better with reflectors. I want to show you how to shoot in the setting sun, and when to use it for backlight, when to use it for main light, and also how to use reflecting light off of a building, and then how to walk around the yard with my handy little light finder. I'll show you how to do that. This morning, really early, I got out with my iPhone and I just filmed my own hand wandering around the yard and showing you good light, bad light. And so hopefully you will get some good experience, real life experience in just simple surroundings, finding good light. Now, I live in a tiny house. It's 700 square feet. So nobody can disqualify themselves by saying, oh, my house is too small. No, my house is super small. So if you can shoot in my house, you can shoot anywhere. And I also remodeled my home last year after a flood, and we just moved in a couple months ago. So my yard, well, the outside of the house is not totally done, and the yard is still somewhat in shambles. I got a pile of construction debris. So yes, my yard is far from perfect as well, but you know what? We're going to be able to capture some beautiful stuff here, even in the midst of the chaos and the mess of life. Aren't we all in the same boat? So give us some grace. Let's make some beautiful images, even in less than ideal circumstances. We are going to have fun, and we're going to get some great images. Okay, first I want to talk about cameras. Now, I use a Lumix camera. The G9 is probably my favorite camera and the one I use the most. It's a micro four thirds camera, and this is my favorite portrait lens, the 35-100. It's actually pretty small, even though it compares to a 70-200 millimeter lens on a full frame camera. So normally this lens is about this big and weighs 3 times more, but I love using the micro four thirds system because it's small and lightweight, and it's less expensive as well. I have actually run my business for about 7 years, 100% with a micro four thirds camera, and the portraits are beautiful. I even do 30 by 40 wall portraits, and I am super happy with it. Now, I also do high-end weddings now, so I'm starting to use the full frame camera for that, the S1, but I can certainly make a living with the micro four thirds. So the G9 is my favorite, but I also have used the G85, GX85 for a small little walk-around camera, and there's quite a few models that are great, but the G series gives you lots of options with the lenses. for portraits, the longer the lens, the better. So the 35 to 100 is awesome. At 35, you can get a full length, but I try to keep it probably 40 or 50 and beyond. As a matter of fact, the longer the lens, the better the people look. So if you have a lens that zooms from, say, 35 to 100, even if you can film them or even if you can photograph them at 35 millimeters, don't do it. Zoom out as long as it'll go and back up. And that's going to give the best look. Now, of course, sometimes you have to use whatever you have. Just do the best you can. Zoom out as far as you can, and that's going to be the best look. Prime lenses are even better. So one of my other favorites is this little guy. It is a 42 and a half 1.7. Now I also have the 42 and a half 1.2. It's way bigger, way heavier, way more expensive, but this is such a compact little wonderful lens. Now, the f-stop goes down to 1.7. That means it lets in lots of light. So if you're shooting indoors, let's say you're doing window light and there's not very much light, you can use this lens at 1.7, lets in lots of light, gives a beautiful shallow depth of field and that beautiful bokeh. And that is a great portrait lens. So very affordable, very small and lightweight. And this is actually the G85 body that it's on. I swap them around a lot. There's a few other lenses as well, but those two are probably my favorites. And I love the shallow depth of field where the eyes are right in focus, and even back to here, maybe the earrings might be out and the background is very, very soft. And of course, if there's light in the background, the beautiful bokeh, we've got so many great options with the Lumix cameras. Hi, squirrel. Are you coming to visit? I have a visitor on my video. That's awesome. Well, he's probably not going to come into the video, but he's over there. Let's see. What next do we need to talk about? All right. Autofocus. All right. So here's one thing I absolutely love about my Lumix camera is face detection autofocus. So with face detection autofocus, it will see the faces and lock onto the face, follow wherever it goes, and you can see a green square around the face. Gives you total confidence that the face is in focus. Not just the face though, there's actually cross lines that show the eyes that are actually being focused on. So it actually detects the eyes and follows the face wherever it goes. It is so wonderful. If your subject turns away so it can't see a face anymore, it defaults to the 225 points, so you just can't lose. So anytime I'm doing portraiture, I'm always on face detection autofocus. Occasionally, I'll be on manual focus. So if I'm on manual focus, I always use focus peaking. So focus peaking is a wonderful tool in all Lumix cameras that allows you to see whatever's in focus with little sparkly green or whatever color you want edges. So there's no doubt whatsoever what is in focus. So I could actually know if the edges of my glasses or my eyelashes are in focus by the little sparkle colors on there, and you can see it from a distance as well. So either face detection autofocus or manual focus is great, especially if you're using a wide aperture like 1.7 or 2.8. You want to make sure that the eyes are in focus. That is key. Even if it's a little bit out, the lens or the image is just not as good. So keeping the eyes in focus is super important when it comes to portrait. So how about exposure? Well, if you have a meter, you can use it. A lot of you don't have a meter, and I hate to admit how seldom I use my meter anymore because my Lumix mirrorless also has constant preview. And I can actually see my exposure, and what I see is what I get. So I can modify my exposure and I can see it getting lighter or darker and know exactly when it's right. Now here's the other thing. We also have zebras. So what are zebras? Zebras are a feature in the camera that show any area of the image that's blown out white by putting zebra lines on it. It's kind of like the blinkies that you see in some cameras, but for the blinkies, when you take a shot, then you have to review it, and after you take it, it flashes black on all the areas that are overexposed, right? Well, this shows you before you take the picture. It shows you on the screen any areas that are overexposed with the little zebras, just fine lines that are not nearly as obnoxious. So I actually use that most of the time. I can look at the back of my camera either through the eyepiece or on the monitor. I can see any areas that are blown out. Now, if it's the sky, it's okay, but I never want any zebras on the face. I don't want any loss of color and density on the faces. So I can use that. So I actually rely on the monitor a lot, which is wonderful. Exposure is key though. So even if you get your exposure not quite right, you can probably modify it in post, but it's never as good. So if you can get your exposure right where it should be on the original capture, it's going to be the best image ever. How about white balance? Well, white balance is a big deal too, especially if you're shooting out in the yard and you have green grass. So auto white balance actually works really great on a Lumix. The only time it consistently fails is with the green grass. So when I'm shooting in the yard, when there's lots of green grass, I will usually do a custom white balance. So with a custom white balance, I will use my color checker passport and use the gray or the white and make a custom white balance so I know it's neutral. If I can't do that, I will often use like shade. I never shoot in broad sun because it's so harsh on a face. I will shoot in shade. So right now I'm shooting my video in shade. So the shade white balance because I'm standing here in the shade. So I have a little bit of green over here, but I have a beige building right here and the sun is bouncing right there behind the camera or right below the camera on the cement, and there's some light things back there. So I know my light is coming right at me and it's pretty clean because it's bouncing off gray, cement and something white. I might have a little bit of a green cast over here from the green grass, but for the most part, having it on a consistent setting as opposed to auto, that will give you more consistency. So I chose shade for today. All right, I'm hand holding this on my own and I want to show you one of my favorite tools for finding light, and it's my handy light finder. I just use my hand like this and I make a shadow in the middle of my hand, and I'm going to show you what good light looks like, what bad light looks like, and how to find the true direction of light. And that will help you go out and, you know, when you're looking around and you're not really sure where the light's coming from, you'll be able to see it really clearly and it'll help you with your portraiture. Okay, so I'm in my backyard right now and I am going to put my hand out here for my handy little finder, and looking at my hand, you can see there's pretty much no shadow in my hand. From my finger, there's literally no direction of light. And if you look out there, there's like nothing. Now, if I turn around this way, there's a little bit more, but not a whole lot. So let's go right up here through my breezeway and out to the front. Okay, so we've got a little bit of light coming through the Italian cypresses here. So how about right here? Okay, there's my light finder. That there is definitely light. Let me change my exposure. Okay, we definitely have light there, but look at that shadow. It is a super hard edge shadow, and that is direct sun, and that is not pretty on a face at all. So while this is telling me that's the direction of light, it's also telling me that is not the kind of light that I want. So I wanted to show you bad light first, and let me just walk over here where I'm not in the sun. And right here, I'm on my front porch, and we have a little bit of shadow. It's not too bad, but there's a lot of light coming from up above. So let's just walk under here, under my overhang. Look at that now. So now look at the shadow in my hand. Now that's more like it. That is exactly what I'm looking for. I want a soft edge shadow that's pretty distinct, because I want it to be directional, but I want it soft. So that is ideal. Now if I look out there, that's my light source right there. It's the open sky, the sun coming through the Italian cypresses. Now of course I don't want those stripes. That's about the worst light ever. But that can give you an idea. Okay, so this is my backyard on the other side. This is where I just filmed one of my other videos. And if you look out there, there's my open sky, and I'm under the shade of a tree. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful soft light. This is why I chose this spot to film my videos, because I'm under the shade of a tree. And then if you look out here, there's my big open sky. So that's my giant softbox, and I can tell by looking right here in my hand, it's very obvious that it's directional, but it's soft light. This is a great way to find good light. Okay, so here's a quick little demo. So I am not facing the light is over there, but if I know the direction, then I can turn to the side a little bit. The goal is to have the light kind of off to the side. If our arm straight out to the side is 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock on a watch face, if I put my light angle at about 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock, a little bit to the front, that's where I want my light. Now, if I were to put the camera where it's coming from the same direction as the light, I'm going to turn my tripod. So now the camera's coming from the same direction as the light. It's totally flat light, right? There's not really any dimension. Well, actually there's a little bit of shadow on this side because of this big dark tree, but most of the light is right behind me, so it's relatively flat. If I go back with my tripod back to this location, there we go. Oh, light's coming through the trees over there. There we go. So that's what I want right there. I want a highlight side and a shadow side. Of course, it's very soft. It's not a real high ratio, but I want a forgiving light, especially on my face. Anyway, so that's the goal, that we want the light from a little bit to the front and high, and not straight behind the camera, not flat light, because it just flattens out the image. This looks far more dimensional. All right, one more time. We're going to do another little demo. So this is a much more dramatic example. So I'm over here by my shed, and I have a little overhang here. This is blocking the light, and the open sky is over there. And look at that beautiful light. If I turn my face towards the light a little bit, I've got the Rembrandt light with a little triangle of light. This is gorgeous and so three-dimensional. It's also much more slimming. So this is called short light, shooting into the shadow side of the face. So this is wonderful. Now, if I move my camera angle over there, there we go. Oops, a little lower off the cement. That's flat light, right? That's just boring, not looking good at all. Plus the background's not that great. But turning it off to the side like that, now the more I get under here, the more dimensional it is, but even that looks way better because I do have a shadow side and I have a highlight side. The light's right up there, and knowing where to put the light makes all the difference. And then also finding the way to modify the light so that you can control the direction, that's key. And using buildings is a great way to do it.